Hi everybody, welcome back to Pavitra's World. So we're gonna be doing another game. But this time, as I say every time, it's different. So let me show you this game. And this game I'm not that familiar of, but let me just show you. So here, it's called Epic Race 3D. I've played it before, but not in a long time. So, but I know how to play. So let's see if I win. Okay. And this is the most you can zoom in, I'm guessing. This is actually a real game. Hold to go up. Set, go. Okay, that purple girl is the queen. Oh, I'm the queen. So let's do this. And then, whoa! Oh yeah, I'm the winner! Ooh, oh yeah, congratulations. This is your creation. Something like that. Congratulations, that is your creation. I think it's like that. Let's go. Play. That blue person's... I don't know what... Are we? That dude's catching up. But he no catch up with me. Woo-hoo! Oh, I guess I'm good at this game. Peace out, bunnies out there. Congratulations, that is your creation. Play. Okay, so I get... Oh. Wait, I'm the queen? Come on, let's do this. It's like that purple. Everybody's ahead of me. I failed. Maybe I'm not that good at the game. These complicated ones, but I know what to do now. Oops. One bad move will ruin the entire race. Oh, I was the queen for a minute. What? And then now I'm not suddenly. These tough ones. Woohoo! But I'm second, but that's still okay, I guess. Congratulations! That is your creation! Okay. Wait, we have to do it again? Oh, that girl, the purple dude, just goes. Oh, fucking dying. Ugh. sort of boring. Oh, whatever. I kind of want to play it different. Whatever. Guys, what game should we play for the next video? Comment down below what game we should play in the next video. Ugh, I was clicking. Ugh. And the blue dude, he's already to the finish line. Oh! Seriously? I'm serious? Maybe we should do something on bright side. Baby stuck on tracks before speeding train, so conductor did this. Ooh, let's watch that.
Brake screaming. A 6,200-ton freight train is desperately trying to stop. The two men controlling the machine are looking at the tracks before them in horror. They know they won't come to a halt in time. So the conductor does.
Whoa, this is such a touching story. Whoa. Let's watch one more video before we end the video. What happens if you spend 100 hours playing video games? Let's do this. How long is this?
No medical exam life insurance. Affordable, virtual. Prudential can help.
When it comes to flight attendants, most people assume that their main role is waiter in the sky. But they are capable of much more than bringing you a beverage and a snack. Would you believe they could even save your life? That is exactly what happened during a flight from Seattle to San Francisco. For one female flight attendant, she had no idea that this short flight would turn out to be unlike any she had ever had in her 10 years of experience. At first, everything was routine, but as the plane took off, she noticed a strange pair among her passengers, a young girl and a much older man who accompanied her. The flight attendant couldn't quite put her finger on it, but she felt like something was off, and she couldn't seem to shake that feeling. The girl looked nervous and subdued. Was she afraid of heights and scared of flying? The flight attendant didn't think so, and she continued watching her closely. It caught her attention that the girl avoided eye contact with anyone, including her fellow traveler. They both didn't speak to each other, and the strangest thing about them was their appearance. The girl looked disheveled and was dressed in shabby clothes, while the man was well-dressed and seemed wealthy. They weren't acting like relatives or friends. So, what brought these two together? The question kept nagging at the flight attendant. She tried to engage them in conversation, but the man got defensive, telling her to leave them alone. The girl didn't dare to look up at her. While attempting unsuccessfully to talk to them, the attendant noticed the girl was just a teenager and had some bruises. Those observations were enough for her to spring to action. She knew she had to make sure the girl wasn't in some kind of trouble. But how could she do it? There was obviously no way the man would let her speak to the girl. The only solution that came to mind was to leave a note for the girl on the airplane's toilet. She wrote a quick note, asking if the girl was okay, and left it in the restroom. At some point, the flight attendant managed to catch the girl's attention and mumbled the word bathroom. The girl got the hint and quickly nodded. She asked the man sitting next to her if she could use the bathroom, and luckily he agreed. The girl left, and within a few minutes, she returned to her seat. The flight attendant rushed to the bathroom to read the girl's response to her note. Her answer left the woman speechless. It said, "I need help." Her suspicions were finally confirmed, and the disturbing situation became clear. The girl seemed to be a victim of human trafficking. Without any hesitation, the flight attendant informed her fellow staff members. They contacted the pilot and showed him the note. He then notified the police in San Francisco and asked that they meet them at the gate. The flight crew knew they couldn't let the dangerous man find out he had been caught, so they pretended as if nothing happened and patiently waited for the plane to land. When they finally reached San Francisco, the police boarded the plane right away and arrested the man. It was the flight attendant's quick thinking and her attention to little details that saved the girl's life that day. This story just goes to prove that the work of a flight attendant is more difficult and demanding than you might think. Their job is not merely traveling to amazing spots all around the world for free. Here are some other fascinating facts about flight attendants you may not have realized. 1. They know survival skills. Flight attendants have to deal with many unpredictable situations. For example, if the plane is forced to make an emergency landing on some deserted island, you can rely on them for surviving in the wild. They know how to create a shelter, gather food, and find safe drinking water in the jungle, rainforests, deserts, and even in the Arctic, which means you're in very capable hands. Flight attendants also know how to contact help in extreme conditions. Isn't that nice to know? Number 2, they can deliver babies. Yup, you heard that right. They receive extensive medical training, so it's no problem for them to welcome a new life into the world mid-flight. In most cases, women late in their 3rd trimester are advised not to travel by plane because even the slightest turbulence can cause premature labor. But if such an emergency happens, the flight crew will always first check to see if there are any doctors or nurses among the passengers to assist them. And the perks? A baby born in the air may find itself with free air travel for the rest of its life, unless the miracle of birth occurs on a budget airline. Number 3, they can perform hand-to-hand combat. You never know what might happen on a plane during a flight. The main role of a flight attendant is to ensure the safety of all passengers and manage the cabin when things get out of control. In order to ensure passenger safety, they must be ready to deal with disruptive or unruly passengers or know how to act during hijacking situations. That's why flight attendants are also trained in hand-to-hand combat. Hopefully you'll never have to see a flight attendant going all Chuck Norris on someone, but knowing that they can certainly does make you feel a lot safer. Number 4, they have to meet grooming standards. Ever wonder why the cabin crew always looks so perfect? Well, that's because they have to follow strict guidelines regarding their appearance. They wear a standard uniform that must look immaculate at all times. And not only are there instructions about their uniform, but also their hairstyle, makeup, accessories, and even the preferred shade of lipstick and nail polish. Flight attendants are the face of the airline, so they must make a positive impression on the passengers. Airlines used to have weight restrictions for flight attendants as well, but that rule is no longer followed. Flight attendants do still have to be very conscious about their diet to maintain a healthy body mass index. Number 5. They hate delays as much as you do. Next time your flight gets delayed and you get upset about wasting your time at the airport, think about the fact that flight attendants don't get paid until the plane's cabin doors close. Most airlines offer them an hourly wage, but only the hours spent in the air count. So flight delays, cancellations, and layovers affect them just as much as they affect you. That also means that even during pre-flight time, when they're trying to cram all your carry-ons into the overhead bins, that time doesn't show up in their paychecks. Number 6, their crazy schedule takes a toll on their personal life. For a flight attendant, it's difficult to plan anything beforehand, like a getaway with friends, family gatherings, even a romantic picnic with their partner. They're often on call, which means they have to be available to get to the airport within 2 hours or less to make a flight. If they miss that call, they can sit ready reserve a couple of days a month, which means they're in full uniform, packed, and waiting in the airport crew lounge just in case they're needed to fly. On top of that, they usually find out their work schedule at the end of the month. Being away from home that much and having unexpected shifts is probably the hardest part of their job. At least I think so. Yeah, I don't envy them. Number 7, they also suffer from jet lag. If you think that your international flight disrupts your sleep cycle, then imagine what zigzagging across the globe nearly every day can do. Sure, flight attendants on long flights have special cabins where they can nap, but it doesn't make them immune to jet lag. Usually, a person needs a couple of days to get used to the change in time zone, but flight attendants don't have that luxury. While their passengers are adjusting to the time difference, they are heading back to the airport to work a return flight to the previous time zone. And more often than not, crew members end up using their days off to catch up on much-needed sleep and time changes. Oh boy, I'd probably be cranky all the time. Now, what do you think the hardest thing about being a flight attendant is? Sound off in the comments below.
Okay. I think we should end this video, guys. So, thanks for watching. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and ring that bell so you get notified every single time we post an exciting new video. Bye!